Welcome to Seymour from the Front Pew podcast, coming to you from the broadcast studio at Seymour First Baptist Church in Seymour, Tennessee, and featuring thoughts and discussions around loving God, loving others, making disciples, and living the life. I am your host, Tiger Brooks, and now, on to the podcast. On to the podcast, he said, and that's where we are today. Welcome back to Seymour from the Front Pew. How are the fellas doing today?
Good. Wonderful. Got my truck back.
What'd you say?
Got my truck back, man. I'm happy.
I haven't got mine.
Corey has had some mechanical difficulties.
For like the last 2 months.
Never get mine back.
It's just gone from one car to
You don't want yours back.
Your truck has me leery of buying cars. And like,
You know,
that's
that
really
would
hard to
probably
do.
not be a bad episode to put down.
I don't think I can handle that emotionally.
Oh man, that's just a warning to all. We might have to consider that one as a
Now you're going to be getting a lot of questions.
Yeah.
as a possible topic. But today's topic, we're going to spend some time. We've alluded to this in a number of podcasts in the past, but we're going to kind of devote some time today to talking about our MVP soccer program. But we're going to not only talk about the program itself, but we're going to talk about the concept of offering something like that to the community and what it has meant to the church, what it has meant to the community, and then perhaps make some correlations between how perhaps you and your church, wherever you may worship, what are the strengths, what are the skill sets, what are the talents that you have within the body, what are the resources that you have as a church in terms of property and otherwise that you could leverage in a similar way to reach your communities. And so I'm going to throw this out because this is information that I really don't know, but I know that MVP has been going along farther back than any of us have been here.
And I think we've hit that in a previous episode.
In some iteration.
Big thanks to them seeing the vision for MVP so many years ago.
Developing the property, making sure that the soccer fields were included in all of that, and then beginning that program. And it's adjusted and changed over time. And I know just in the time that we've all been here, it's seen different iterations in terms of the way that it's approached. And yet, as we stand here in 2024 for this spring season, there's between 450, 500 kids involved in it, and it takes a lot of folks to do that. So let's kind of talk about from the outset why MVP. You know, why we can assume and kind of look back and think about it, but just let's assume that. You know, we're not addressing that. We are addressing this for the first time. Why would a church put so much energy and resources into MVP?
One is, I think if you're asking that why, you also have to ask what is lacking in our community. So I've had a couple guys before. We actually had one that came up to tour and look, and I was kind of showing them. And my first question to them, it was about soccer, is does your community have a local soccer program that's healthy? If so, then look elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
If not, then go that direction. From my understanding, if you look back on the history of when MVP was started, there was not a healthy youth soccer program in Seymour. I could be wrong, and somebody may correct me or whatever, but it doesn't sound like there was. At this point in time, there is not. And so I think one is, if you're going to do youth sports, my encouragement would be do one. Don't create competition with another one that is healthy.
Yeah, find a niche.
Find a niche. For us, we have a niche, and it's meeting a need inside the life of our community, and that's why we continue it. If we fail to meet that need, if we don't do it well, if it doesn't stay connected to the church, if it doesn't fulfill the mission that is laid out to have, at that point in time, then we have to rethink it. and so whether that's rethink the program as a whole, or rethink the sport, or whatever else, that would be my why. Is okay. So why do we MVP? Why do we do MVP? Ultimately, it is to help reach our community for Christ. And if we're not doing that, if we're not making connections on that end, if it just becomes this rogue soccer program with its own name, then there is no reason for us to continue it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
I think that's good. And I think that you mentioned that now, and I think it's good to just kind of bounce off of that, and then we can kind of drill down into what MVP is about here. But all of us can look across wherever we've been, we have probably been in a situation where there has been multiple basketball programs.
Yeah.
Upward basketball is huge, and it's in a lot of different places. And then I've known places that have developed their own take on that same concept, but they're everywhere. There's lots of that, and there's lots of competition because lots of people have the ability to have a basketball gym. But soccer fields are unique because, I think you also have to consider the fact that for us, Seymour is the largest unincorporated town. I don't know what
city in the state. Yeah.
It's an unincorporated city, largest unincorporated city in the state, meaning that if anything like a soccer fields were going to be put together, it would take the Sevier County Parks and Rec to do it. Well, when you're in Sevier County, Sevierville and Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg are the places that get all the money.
Yep.
That's where the people are. And Seymour, while it's a wonderful place to live, and we would encourage you to strongly consider it. Number one, there's not a lot of open land to do something like that. And number two, there's not a lot of effort being put forth to put money in it to develop that. So all of that is to say, it was ripe for the pickings to say, well, you got 30 acres. What are we going to do with it? Let's build some fields because nobody else has got it other than the schools around us. And so all of that is to say,
I would say even that you're talking about the schools, we probably have more sports field capability right now than any one school in our community, and maybe real close to all of them combined. And again, that's not all of that to say is they're there for our community. So if our schools need them, we hope that
they have used them.
They have used them. Yeah, we try to reach out. We try to keep them healthy and in good shape or whatever else. We don't want to mess them up for our seasons or whatever else. But as a whole, we try to make sure that they are available for the whole community or whatever else. Yeah. Again, I think we mentioned this on an earlier podcast. Is still when we talk about the history of MVP, I cannot get out of my mind. Bruce Yates had the vision for that, and he literally had the vision to have a video shot of him walking through that field before it was a soccer field, and it was 3 foot high grass, and he had a vision for what it could be, and it's there today.
Yeah, brought it about, and so we are thankful. We stand on the shoulders of those who came before us that had the vision to do that, and those who supported that. Yeah. And so all of this that we're talking about now is just kind of amplifying the fact that you have to look at your own situation. If you're in a church somewhere and you're like, I wish we could do something like that, find your niche. Yeah. Don't try to compete with the 3 or 4 other churches around you who are doing the same program. Figure out what you could do that would be unique to your context, and just leverage all of your resources for the glory of God in that way. And so anyway, MVP just kicked off literally last week, and we are coming into our second week this week of games. And it's an interesting, you two coach and have coached for a number of years. Corey has coached off and on since the time he's been here. I'm not the guy. I'm not a soccer guy, but my responsibilities are around the spiritual component of getting people to do devotions at halftime, which is a kind of a unique situation itself, because we do want to help people understand, yes, we want you to come. We want to be a resource for your family, to have a place where your kids can develop the love of a game and have great exercise and get out into nature. But ultimately, we want to have an opportunity to share the gospel and to help people understand why truly that we wanted to put these fields out here. It's not just for your health benefits, it's for your spiritual benefit as well.
Right.
You've been here the longest of any of us. And so kind of share a little bit from your recollections and past about how you have seen the impact of MVP, not only on the community, but on the church itself.
Yeah, so in my time, we did have basketball.
Yeah.
So there was a period of time that MVP was running soccer and basketball, 2 soccer seasons, 1 basketball season. So basically 3 MVP seasons in a year.
I can't even imagine.
And that was something. Ben, our children's pastor at the time, he was kind of also tasked with kind of heading that up. And Jennifer has, ever since I've been here, has been kind of at the helm there too. And
Jennifer Tyler.
Yeah.
Word up for Jennifer Tyler.
And she's done a fantastic job carrying that on. And I've heard a lot even before. And I think it's morphed and shifted a little bit. And but basketball, kind of like what Corey was talking about, basketball we just found was not the niche. Like there was so many other things there. There were so many other places we were having a hard time kind of keeping that going. And it was in our one little gym, the best we could do was run 2 side-to-side courts basically for the younger teams. And then older teams, we'd open it back up to the big ones. But it just took all day Saturday. Because you can only run so many games at a time. And so that was difficult. It was taxing on our folks. And so I think, we just, I don't know, 5 years ago or something, kind of made the decision that it was time to do away with basketball and just to put our emphasis and our focus on soccer. Because it was continuing to grow and it was very healthy and still needed to get more healthy along the way. And I think we've seen that. I think one of the things that's been encouraging to me in my time here is seeing it. 2 things. Number one, seeing it going from, I don't know exactly how this happened. This would have been prior even to my time that I think MVP kind of became its own brand. That in a lot of ways, there were probably some that even disconnected it from the church for a period of time. Even though the church was still they were still behind it, and it was still the ministry of the church, and I don't know exactly how that happened, but it's been encouraging to me in my time seeing that come full circle back around to being connected, very much branded to the life of the church, and that this is a ministry of the church, and seeing the devotions happening and the connections happening. But the other thing that I think has been encouraging to me, if it was only our church being involved, I don't think it could survive.
Right.
Because we have a lot of folks that are coaching and helping some other ways, primarily I would say coaching, that are members of other churches, and they see that, and I, for our standpoint, I think we welcome that, and that's an encouragement to us that they see this, and we say, at least I do every time, I'm giving a devotion, that, if you don't have a church home, we would love for you to encourage you to come and check us out. But if you have a church home, we want to encourage you to stay connected and be a part of that. So it's not anything that's kind of like this, it's trying to seek these folks from other churches. It is very much a community, a ministry to the community that we welcome other believers to be a part of, and we need those believers, because those coaches are given practice devotions too, and encouraging and loving on these kids. And that's the heart behind this. Is ultimately the heart is not to grow our church. It's to win souls to for the kingdom of God. I mean, that's the purpose behind it. And so that has been an encouraging side of me, that the people that I have met along the way, coaching all the teams that I've coached, and the parents that I've met, that go to other churches, to connect with them to have that relationship with them and encourage one another. And as we're doing that, but then the relationships too that I've been able to form with non-believers. And I see them in the school systems, and I'll walk in a school, and a parent that I coached, a kid that I coached 4 years ago, that I haven't seen out there on the fields. That, hey, Coach Jason, and we kind of have those conversations, and it's just that's as a pastor, sometimes one of the hardest things to do is to have genuine relationships with non-believers.
Yeah,
because our bubble gets so consumed with believers, at least hopefully that's the case inside the life of the church. But that's sometimes the hard part, and that's a place that that's probably where I meet the majority of folks that are not believers, and I'm able to have those relationships and really have those intentional conversations. And so it's just been an encouraging. I love the game of soccer, so that aids me even more. That I like being out there and reffing and coaching and watching these kids. My kids love the game of soccer and have enjoyed being out there. So it's been a blessing across the board. But I love just seeing how the church has created this. Some people don't even know. I don't even know that we've ever said what MVP stands for.
Not in a long time.
Yeah.
And so some people hear MVP, and they initially, I say this to my players all the time, what's MVP stand for? And they automatically go to most valuable player.
Yeah.
I'm like, nope, that's not what it initially was created. Most valuable person is what MVP was created to stand for. Most valuable person. And what that is pointing back to is there is one person that's the most valuable person, and that's Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. That's the heart behind MVP, and what that branding, what my understanding, obviously I was not here whenever it was done, but that's my understanding of how that branding was done, that even in the game of soccer, that we're all out here to have fun and play and enjoy our time, but there's one person at the heart of who's the most valuable person, and that's Christ. And so I love that that's a huge avenue of our church to the life of our community.
That may be my next MVP devotion.
There you go.
Which he's doing
tomorrow. It is always my first devotion with my team.
Yeah, it's good.
It's always my first devotion with my team to make sure my team understands this. You wear it on your jerseys. That's just what this is about, and this is what we're out here to represent. I
want to echo one thing, and I'll let Austin talk here in a minute. We let him out of his cage. I want to echo the fact that
a crate,
a church, a church has the hold on. A church has the ability to look at a program and go, "This is not cutting it."
Yeah.
We need to not. This is when a program, and this goes for anything in your church. I think this is a valuable conversation stopper here to just talk about it for a second. If any program in your church becomes more trouble than the fruit that it bears, then it's time to cut it and to do. And so in our situation, great fields, great property, basketball court is great, but it's not leveraging your best thing.
Yeah.
And in order to get all the games in, you're here all day. You're taxing your people. You're taxing your volunteers. And you are trying to do a program that probably someone else is doing fairly well, and you might as well just support those that are doing it well. Cut it and concentrate on the thing that is your niche. And I think that's a very powerful thing for any church to look at across the board at what you're doing. If you've got a program in your church that's not aligned with the vision, it's not producing the fruit that it needs to produce, have the capacity, and not because, well, Mamaw so-and-so started this 37 years ago, and so we've got to keep going. No, that's not a good reason to keep going. So I think that's a good thing to bring up.
Let me, as an aside for just a second, say, again, we kind of threw out a preview of our master plan yesterday with vision team and everything, is that we don't see that going anywhere right now.
Oh, yeah.
We don't see soccer fields, playground, walking track, the things that are used regularly by our community. We don't see going anywhere right now. There's no plan for that, and I know that's been one of the questions that's popped up since yesterday even. And so, just taking aside for a second to answer that and say, like playground. Playground is there. It's not. It is there on the current master plan. It is there on the future master.
It ain't moving.
It's not going anywhere.
Again, like we've already had to do once before. Somewhere along the way, we got a plan to replace it because it will wear out, and we want to do that well for our community, and so we'll have to have a plan for that. But as a whole, it's not going anywhere. So, yeah.
So, Austin, as a father of kids who've played in MVP, as of course, obviously, Jason has too, but also as a coach, just your perspective on it. What do you see as a benefit to the community? How has it benefited your family? Your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think I have any great lightning bolts to shed on this. I think we've covered it very well, and have in past episodes too. I would reiterate a couple things through, one of the things when I came here in 2021, we had never played soccer before as a family, and I didn't know much about soccer, and progressively all three of mine have played soccer in this league. Everett was the one who really took to it. That's my middle child, and has played almost every season out here, and took off really loving it. And that's where I had to learn how to coach and all that stuff and learn the game, which I still don't 100% understand, but whatever. Which comes back to, and I would aside say that I coach 2 teams. I've coached several seasons. I don't know that much about soccer. Like you don't have to. The point of getting involved in MVP to our people here at Seymour First Baptist is not about you knowing soccer or feeling comfortable doing a game. It's about the ministry that happens on the field. You've got to keep that in perspective. But anyway, I think, and not discounting where we were at that point or what was going on, but I think a small handful of people were carrying a huge load with MVP.
I would agree with that.
And that's what was basically iterated to me by Corey and Jason when I came was, and we've talked about it before, a lot of people looked at our property as the community park. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, you could come and play MVP, and it's not discounting what those who were serving were doing, but I think you could fairly easily just not connect that to our church. Mm-hmm. If you're not really paying attention to the loudspeaker devotion, if you have a coach who's not a member of First Baptist or a believer, again, not knocking any of that, but it could easily be you're just playing soccer at the community park. And so one of our goals has been to leave no doubt. If you're walking on our walking track, if you're on our property, if you're at our playground, if you're playing MVP, that there is no doubt where you are, what the purpose of what we're doing is. And so trying to really get people to buy into that and to leave no doubt in the minds of kids. As a father, letting my kids play both when I've coached and then when the first couple of years when I didn't, even if I didn't necessarily know the coach, feeling safe, even just as a parent, I think that's what we can offer to people is generally you can feel safe with your kids playing in this league. You're on a one-way in and out property. The coaches are background checked. It's generally a safe environment. All those kinds of things. So we add that. It is a developmental league, and I would say early in my time at least, because I had your job before you took it when you came, which was the spiritual side of MVP. Really getting a lot of the people who are involved in MVP, but not necessarily Seymour First Baptist people, to understand that our purpose is not to teach them soccer. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate your competitive drive and your desire to teach the game of soccer and even to pour into kids. But you need to know that us as an organization, our goal is not that. Our goal is to teach them about Jesus and to break down those barriers. And we do it through soccer.
Yeah. Along the way, you may learn a few things.
You're going to learn some. You will. But that is not our problem. So when early on, I feel like, and we still have some of that, so it's not, but it's just reminding people who want to say, hey, we're not doing this well. We're not doing that well. Well, I agree with you. We're not doing it well, but that's not really our primary goal. Yes, our referees are not going to get everything right because they're not trained. We don't put them through courses. They do a great job for being volunteers, but that's because we want good people who are going to get the goal of what we're trying to do to referee. And so they're going to not really understand offsides all the time.
Well, and I think there's a couple things on that too. One, our entire program is run off of 4 part-time employees.
Yeah.
That's why we're able to do it so affordably. 500 kids, game days that involve a lot of different volunteers. The entire program is run off of 4 part-time employees.
Yep.
So when you are thinking through our MVP, that's why we challenge our church to think through what is your involvement, because our goal with this is not to fund it and hire everybody to run it. Our goal is for this to be a ministry of our church, which means our people need to be involved and they need to see it as ours. Whether you have a kid in it or not, you need to see it as our ministry within inside the life of our church, where I can have a place to plug in. And I truly believe that everyone, a part of our church, could find a way to plug into MVP.
Right. And
so, go ahead.
We say this over and over again, but just an encouragement for the 50 millionth time. Like, missions starts right there.
Yeah.
It starts on the MVP field, really, for anyone who goes to church here. That's where it starts, I would say. Because not only are they on our property and they feel somewhat safe, we're not asking you to do like the game day devotions. We say week in and week out, we need people. It's not hard. And what we're just asking people, we are trying, the goal of all of that is to get the parent or grandparent or kid out there to just consider coming to church. Sure. And it doesn't even have to be our church. Mm-hmm. We don't even care.
Nope.
Just consider church. Consider your relationship with God and consider church and open that door. And so while Guatemala or Cincinnati or wherever we may go to do missions has an appeal and a great value, it starts right there on the MVP field. Not to mention, we are afforded an incredible opportunity in that you don't have to go to Judea and Samaria right now. Judeans and Samarians
are on the soccer field.
We're
funneling 1,000 of them.
They are moving people, and so I think it's easy to, but we know that. But at the end of the day, it's easy to think, well, this is this community and people who've lived here, and they either go to church or they don't. They're not going to change. Blah blah blah. But there are people moving here left and right.
Yeah,
some from here, but a lot from here, there, and everywhere. Mm-hmm. You have people from all over the United States and the world moving to the town we live in.
Yeah.
They're looking for what to do with their kid. A lot of them either already play soccer or that's just an easy, cheap thing for them to do that they feel safe on. They are sitting there. Mm-hmm. All you have to do is begin to open the door.
Yeah.
And so, like, it doesn't take you sacrificing a week of work and getting a passport and all those things to go and just try and have gospel conversations. You can do it by coming out here for 2 hours on a Saturday.
Yeah. So, I'm going to go back to part of that. Second, would say, you said, again, we don't do that well or whatever. Our program is not perfect. Like, we're going to have problems. There's going to be mistakes. There's going to be issues that even come up. But our purpose in those are even to deal with those in a God-honoring way. Yeah. So I'm not saying that there won't be a problem or an issue, but we're going to do our best to deal with that in a way that honors God, whatever that may be. So whether that is, dealing with a coach issue or a player issue or a family issue or, a program issue or whatever. So we'll do our best to try to deal with those. Then in that, I'm working through several different things. Is the development in our niche for our program is player development, is a developmental league. There is no great soccer player that didn't start by just simply having fun playing soccer.
Yep.
And that's where we are. That's where we want to be. Now, I want, as our kids progress through the league, I want them to get better. That is a part of development, right? We want them to get better. There is also a reality to how far we can go and what our purpose is. And there are other higher level development leagues that are beyond ours. And we don't take offense to someone going to play one of those. Matter of fact, I actually take some, now I want to be careful with the word pride, that we've got a lot of kids that are playing college soccer who, when you talk to their families about where they started, it was on our MVP fields.
Yep.
They love pulling out pictures of the old red and blue jerseys or the camo jerseys or whatever it may be, of where they started with their friends goofing off and playing soccer and learning the game on our MVP fields. And the challenge on that, I would say, if you're listening to this and that's you, is so then plug back in.
Mm-hmm.
Plug back in because you understand the game. You've been around. You understand the impact. Plug back in now so that the program can be there for these kids to come, and we can see more and more kids playing high level soccer.
Yeah.
That came through MVP soccer. So again, I don't know that I would have created a soccer program. That's not necessarily how I always think about things. But I have loved it. I think we serve a very good niche in our community with what we are doing. I don't see us doing basketball. I don't see us doing a different sport right now. One of the reasons is because we can't handle anymore.
Yeah.
We're running 2 seasons of soccer a year. The only way we could do something different is if we dropped and did 1 season of soccer and 1 season of something else. I don't see why we would do that right now. But again, God is blessing, and I would encourage you to be a part of that. And it is fun. It's fun to see the development of these players. I look back and think, when I got here, Preston wasn't playing yet.
Nope.
And now I get to see how Preston has progressed. Everett had not played the game of soccer. And I've grown to love soccer. One is really kind of from our Honduras roots, where we went to Honduras for years and years and years. And then the boys caught a heart for it and love to play. It's a fun game. When done well, it's a great team strategy sport that is fun to watch. Hard to understand sometimes, maybe the rules. And
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. So,
one of the things, to kind of what you were talking about, Austin, as far as kind of the mission side of things, very few people in the church question doing. I say very few because not sure there are some out there.
Yeah.
Very few people question.
There are some wrong people.
That's right. I wasn't going to say that, but you can. There are very few people question doing a trunk or treat or a fall festival. Like, that's an outreach. We want to do that. It's something that reaches out to the community and hopefully at some point pulls them in. Very few people question stuff like Easter eggs. There's those things in the life of the church that you look across the board, and churches are almost unanimously doing things like that, and your people want to do those things. MVP to me, and I would say really any sports ministry in this capacity really functions like that. It is an outreach. It is us going out doing something, but there's a difference in the sense that it's more long term. When someone comes for our trunk or treat, we may get maybe 5 minutes of a conversation with a person. We may get something in their hands that's going to point them to come into our church, and maybe MVP, they're hearing it every Saturday or every Thursday or every day that they have a game. They're hearing it hopefully every time they're out here. They're hearing it for almost 2 months that they're coming and being a part of that, on top of the fact that our folks that are involved in the ministry, coaches, referees, concession workers, all of it, they're having these not just intentional conversations, but they're building relationships, coming alongside of folks and just loving on one another. And so there's just a difference in that. And so I think sometimes that's what people miss, is in the same way that all of these other outreach things that we do that are like one-offs that are, maybe for 3 or 4 hours, this is not that much different, but is, I would say, a lot more impactful.
That's what I was going to say. I would say this is way more, has way more upside and opportunity because it's more invested. I would even put it almost on the same scale as VBS as far as the importance of what we do and the ability to speak into, especially kids.
Yeah.
But the thing about this, in opposed to VBS is just families. The kids. Mm-hmm. This is the whole family.
Yep.
And I think back to when we first moved here in 2021, that first MVP season was like, you remember what your first MVP season was like, Tiger. You're like, oh my gosh, this is a lot.
Yeah.
But we started having families. Mm-hmm. I very distinctly remember families walking into service on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
We were back running 300-ish, 325 back then. And a family would walk in having played MVP for 2 or 3 seasons, and finally they try out church, and then we're baptizing that family weeks, months later. And it is that front door of MVP and it was because, in all honesty, it's because of the Lord, but it's because those game day devotions and that pouring in
consistency
and consistency that they went, we've been coming out here for how long and we've never tried church.
Yeah.
Let's just try it. And then they came in the doors and they heard the gospel and then they were saved and baptized.
Yeah.
And so that's the ultimate, that's why MVP has the value of what you're saying and why we have to just keep at it and develop those relationships that'll open those doors. So
I find it interesting. I'm in my 4th season now, believe it or not.
Wow, that's
doing
hard.
This.
That's crazy.
I know, and
It was about fast.
it's one of those things where that like that first season, I was never a part of a church that did anything like this, and soccer is very foreign to me, and yet you go out there that first season, and I roll my little PA system out there, and I start doing my devotions and things, and we all have those people that are MVP families that we only see on the sidelines, and maybe they coach, maybe their kid plays, but I'm now saying, hey, some of them I know their name, and that first time they see me or I see them, it's like a young calf looking at a new gate, and they're like, oh, I don't know you, you're just a big hairy looking thing, and I'm going to listen to you because I'm a captive audience, right? But after 4 seasons of me being out there, them seeing me just about every time they're here, now they are saying hi to me, and they're trying to keep me. Okay, y'all need to listen to Pastor Tiger. He's going to, and I'm not even their pastor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I think there's something there that is very. You said we don't have a perfect program, but we have our purpose is pure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody write that down. That's good. Our purpose is pure, and people see that.
Yeah.
Because we're just out there offering this to the community, and we're not holding anybody's feet to the fire. We're not handcuffing you to the church. Hey, here it is. Here's the gospel. Here's a church that you can come join us if you'd like to, and go somewhere else if you want to. And I think people appreciate that. And whether they are a member of our church or come to our church or what, but they very much appreciate. I can't tell you the number of people who I'm dragging that thing off of the field, and they're like, thank you all so much for what you do. This is really awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for offering this to my kids. And it's gratifying, to have that kind of thing. And so, MVP.
I'd also say, we've talked about it before. I think, Jason, you've talked about it. There's a value for pastors, for us, for people in the community, whether they go to our church or not, to see us just living life, flaws and all. And so the connections that, for us speaking, they need to see us. So when they come in, if you're a teacher in the community, you're seeing us when we do our teacher appreciation. You're seeing me when I go out there and go to basketball games for my kid, or I go to basketball games to see your kid. And we're just living life just as a community member, because frequently there's kind of this scared to talk to a pastor about anything besides, we've all been there, right?
Yep.
When they're, oh, you're a pastor. I got a great grandfather who was a preacher once, and that's the extent of the conversation they want to have with you. So breaking down that barrier. And so that connection of when you've been out on the field, they see you there, and then they see you in other contexts of living life. It helps soften that. But that's not just us.
Right.
That's for you who is listening. If you've got a kid who's in high school and they see you out at the band competition, but then they also see you out on the MVP field doing that devotion, it all connects for them to start thinking about, how you live your life and what it means that if you're living different on that band competition, and they see the joy that you have, then they see you doing devotions at halftime or coaching a soccer team or whatever. It just has ripple effects that you need to consider.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. I think that we've we've squeezed the juice out of that lemon. That is MVP. And if you
OPIP. Our purpose is, what was it?
I don't know. Pure.
our
OPIP.
our program is imperfect, but our purpose is pure.
OPIP.
Okay.
He said okay.
We'll have the T-shirts made immediately. It'll be available at Seymour from the Front Pew podcast.com. No, I'm just kidding. That's not even a thing that exists. Thank you for listening. If you have never been involved in MVP and you want to find out more, feel free to contact us at the email you're about to hear, and we'll get you plugged in. We'll get you in contact with Jennifer Tyler, our lovely and talented director of MVP, and she does a wonderful job, and all those that work with her. We appreciate them so much. But this has been Seymour from the Front Pew, and until next time, we'll say bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Seymour from the Front Pew. Our sole desire for this podcast is to glorify God by educating and encouraging His body. If you would like to learn more about anything you've heard today, feel free to reach out by email at staff@seymourfbc.org or by visiting our website at seymourfbc.org. If you're located near our community and do not have a church home, come worship with us at 10:15 a.m. on Sunday morning. Until then, we pray God's richest blessings on you and yours as you love God, love others, make disciples, and live the life.